the Wednesday week. Grab a pint, get comfy, and enjoy the show.
Hello and welcome to the Wednesday week, the Sheffield Wednesday podcast, sponsored by the Riverside Cafe. I'm James, and our lineup for this week includes Dan Fudge. Hello.
How's it going, boss? You all right? How was your evening list yesterday?
Nothing much happened, to be honest. Dead quiet.
No?
Have you finished your bacon sandwich? When we first connected the call, Fudge was like, "Oh, sorry, I'm just eating the bacon sandwich."
Hey, listen, I work late nights. This is breakfast time for me. This one, but yes, I've finished now.
And Vic is here as well. Hello, my love.
Hello, you all right? I've got some bacon in. I might have a bacon sandwich. Oh, what a treat.
This is bacon talk. Oh, you see, you've set the dog off now talking about bacon. Flipping heck. Right, okay, so we're going to... normally, of course, we start off by talking about the most recent game. Well, normal format is going out the window on the Wednesday week this week, even down to the fact that we're actually recording this at lunchtime on Thursday, which is much earlier. We normally record it in the evening. But the last kind of 12 and a bit hours in Sheffield Wednesday world have been pretty frantic. And that really is what we're going to be kind of thinking about, talking about and reflecting upon over the course of the next 45 minutes or so. So last night was the much anticipated, much kind of moved and changed fans forum, which was initially going to be at Hillsborough. Then it was moved to the Octagon. Then it was moved back to Hillsborough, which is where it took place. Now, Fudge, you've got a good excuse because you work evenings and you live at the opposite end of the country. So fair enough.
Yes.
But I also wasn't there. I did have a ticket. I couldn't make it along in the end last night. Vic, you were there.
Yes, you could. I saved you a seat and everything. You were too busy cooking your sweet potatoes.
Well, some of us actually go to work, so you know. Right, okay. So, Vic, before we get into the specific talking points from last night, just obviously you were there. Just tell us kind of overall the mood. What was the evening like as an overview?
It was uncomfortable. It was angsty. It wasn't. I mean, it was never a good idea to start with, was it? It wasn't. I hadn't planned on actually going last night. I'd applied for the first 2 rounds of tickets, and then, like I said, if Robbie's not in the band, I'm not going to apply for a third time. So I didn't apply, and then a nice chap on Twitter contacted me and said, "No one to go. Did I want his spare ticket?" So I was like, "Well, yeah, all right." So the best bit for me was that I sat with Dom and Giddings, and we had quite a good giggle. But other than that, it was an uncomfortable evening. I'd imagine, and I said this on the radio last night, because obviously I've been on the radio again, I would imagine that Trevor did it all in his power to try and advise Mr. Chansiri not to host last night. It was never a good idea. It wasn't a good idea. Nothing really came out of it apart from the fact that we're now for sale, which I'm sure we'll go into. But yeah, it was a bit of a nothing event, to be honest.
Well, that's an interesting point, isn't it? Because I was following it through a combination of messages from you, Vic, tweets, and other people that were seeing tweets and sending messages to me. So I kind of got like an ongoing timeline of notifications coming through to my phone about the various things that were being said. And there was a point of the evening towards the end where you kind of think, do you know what? There's nothing particularly new that's come out of it other than we've been asked not to name the player in question, other than a particular player who got a bit of stick for being a bit of an idiot for various reasons. We'll probably talk about that a bit later on. But it just seemed like there wasn't anything earth-shattering that came out of it until right at the end. And then the whole kind of evening just sort of changed. As you said in your tweet, Vic, Well, that escalated. So, yeah, the big headline that comes from the evening then is Mr. Chansiri effectively saying that the club is on the market. I found it quite interesting that the official Sheffield Wednesday Twitter were kind of live tweeting from the event. They tweeted last night as well saying the club is on the market. You know, it's about as official as you get, really, isn't it? When the club's own Twitter is reflecting that in their feed. Vic, am I right in thinking that you had to bail by that point anyway, so you weren't there when that bit kind of came out?
Yeah, that's true. So I was back at home by that point. As you've heard, I've got a dog.
Which is fair enough.
Yeah.
These things do go on into the wee small hours.
Yeah, I think it finished about midnight last night. So yeah, I'm glad I left when I did.
Okay. Tell me, the thing that I'm quite intrigued about is reading through kind of the timeline of what was spoke about during the event. There were times when he talked about his plan still being that his son will inherit the club. He talked about loving Sheffield Wednesday and, you know, the plans that he's got and stuff like that. Did you have any indication the time that you were there that this kind of like, well, that's it, I'm selling up bombshell was on the cards?
Yes and no. I think before I went, the reason that I was actually so keen to go was because I knew something like this would happen. I kind of imagined that it would be a bit of, I don't want to say the D word, but a bit of a Dave Allen moment, that he would come in and go, right, fuck you, the club's for sale, see you later, and just walk out again. As it stood, he sat there for 4 or 5 hours being berated, rightly and wrongly so, you know, on different parts. He answered everything. Well, no, he didn't. He didn't really answer anything, if I'm honest. He's very political. But yeah, there were points that you did just think any minute now he's just going to turn around and go, right, fine, club's for sale. But yeah, wow. But the thing is as well, he's a man of his word, isn't he? He's Thai. He's a man of his word. So going from, like you said, I'm going to do this really well, I'm going to sort Sheffield Wednesday out, I'm going to leave it to my son. Like, that's a man of his word up until about 11 o'clock when he went, right, I'm selling. So now is he a man of that word, or I don't know.
Do you feel that there's something lost in translation? Now, I think you're right, James. The fact that the club itself, you don't. I don't know. For me, it's either one or two things. As in, the person on the club Twitter feed, and obviously the other people that were there, they've tweeted it verbatim. They've tweeted it word for word, and they've sort of said, "This is what he said." I think that we're going to go down one or two routes here. I think it's as he cut his nose off to spite his face, just to go, do you know what, sod you all, like you say. I'm going to sell it then if I'm that unpopular. Or there was talk back in August, wasn't there, about new financial support coming in. Has the club already been up for sale? Has he been looking to share the ownership of the club with somebody in order to generate more funds? Or is there something lost in translation a little bit where he's gone, I will sell the club, but if I do, it's going to be it kind of came into two parts, didn't it? Like, if I do sell it, it's going to be in terms of what the... God, I'm trying to word this right. I'll make sure that it's okay when we go. Or do you know what I mean? Like,
I know what you mean. It's a combination of the two, given on like what was said last night. And the Sheffield Wednesday Twitter feed person is a friend of mine, and he was literally told last night he got to live tweet the event, so he didn't have his laptop or anything, so his thumbs are quite sore this morning. But I think it was a combination of what you said. I think it was a bit of a right, sod you, I'm out. Boom, whatever, see you later. But then he started to backtrack a bit, and I think he started to realise what he'd said. And like I said, he's a man of his word. And if you're Thai, you very much, what you say is what you mean. And I think that's why a lot of the time he struggles with forums like that, because he needs to be political, and he can't be as brutally honest as he'd like to be. And I think he started to backtrack on what he'd said, because I think he realised that he'd let his emotions get the better of him. But I do think it was a spur of the moment, right? Fuck you, I'm selling, see you later. He spoke at one point during the evening, he got very emotional, talking about his family, and it wasn't about, you know, fans abusing his family or whatever like we've had before. It was very much that his wife rings him and says, why are you in Sheffield spending all this money? Why aren't you with us, with your children? You know, why aren't you in Thailand? You've got a really good life in Thailand. You know, we've got this incredible house. We've got this like business and whatever. And you're in Sheffield wasting millions and millions of pounds. And he said, I don't know why I'm doing it. I did it because I love the club like you do. But literally every single person, oh my Christ, every single person that stood up last night said, Mr. Chansiri, can I thank you for what you've done for this club? Now, I've been going for insert number of years here, and you've only been here for 4. And it's like, I think he just got to the point that he just wanted to say, fine, forget it. But then I think as he said that, he's obviously had the realization that he's always promised this club to his son and blah, blah, blah. And he's maybe started to backtrack a bit. But I do think it was very much, I would have said it quite early on last night, to be honest, rightly or wrongly. I think I'd have stomped off and smashed a lot up. But yeah, I think it is. Do
you think he'd planned it though? Do you think it was always his plan to announce that the club was up for sale? No. Because I think it's interesting you talk about. So a lot of people tweeting saying that towards the end he seemed very tired, he seemed very fatigued, he seemed quite emotional at points. Now I've been to plenty of these meetings before, as I guess a lot of people that are listening to this will probably have at some point or another been to similar sort of things. And we know what Mr. Chansiri is like in these meetings. He tends to be very headstrong. He'll defend his position. He doesn't tend to budge very much. And, you know, he has a certain viewpoint on a lot of things that he'll go into in great depth and really defend his position on. This kind of like, you know, emotional side to him getting quite, you know, upset at times. It looked like he was a little bit teary from what I'm told. This is different. This is something that we've not really seen before. Now, what I don't understand about this, there's a few things I don't understand about this. Can I do what people did last night and just say, you know, from the outset that, you know, I think that here's a guy that's come in and invested a load of his own money, which he doesn't have to do.
Before you start, can you just tell us how long you've been going to Hillsborough? That would be really helpful.
Oh, I can't even remember. 1990, whenever that was. So yeah, I mean, look, you know, I'm very grateful for what Mr. Chansiri has done for the club. Right, here are my issues with this part of what happened last night. If you decide you're going to sell a football club, if you decide that you're in the market to sell it, that becomes the point of having something like a fans forum where you say, I'm going to draw a line under things and I've decided the time's right for me to move on and someone new to come in. And so I'm starting the process now of looking for a new owner. That becomes the forum. It seems to me that the way that was done, with it being tagged on the end after midnight, is absolutely representative of Sheffield Wednesday Football Club right now, which is just chaotic. It's just a chaotic way of announcing the fact that you want to try and sell the club, which makes me wonder how realistic, how honest that is. We've all heard the quote, haven't we, that ultimately every football club in the country is up for sale. If the right person comes along with the right money, pretty much any owner in the country would listen to an offer, because that's the nature of football. Most people that are in it are probably going to take the opportunity to get out having made a decent profit. Vic, there's a quote that I saw, just confirmed for me that this was right. So this is much earlier on in the evening when he was talking about his future, and Mr. Chansiri said, if I sold the club, I'd make 100 million more, maybe more.
Yeah, 100 million pounds profit, he reckoned.
Yeah, all right. So I've kind of done the maths on this. So he paid in the region of £35 million for Sheffield Wednesday. I spoke to Peter over in Denmark this morning, and we did some quick sums to figure out what we think is the money that he's lost since then, that he's invested into Sheffield Wednesday and effectively, you know, lost in the club, is around £100 million. If he also intends to make £100 million profit, that means that he's valuing the club at £235 million. Now, Newcastle in the Premier League are just about to be sold for for 300 million. So, I mean, even if we've got those sums wrong and actually his loss is half that, even if it's 50 million, you're still looking at somewhere in the region of 185 million pounds that he's valuing the club at if he wants to make a £100 million profit. I mean, that's just, if that's the kind of offers that he's going to be looking for, then Mr. Chansiri is not selling. He's not selling this club. They're just words. He would be realistically looking to get back what he paid. Sheffield Wednesday Football Club right now is probably worth around £35 million, maybe a little bit over that. Maybe be able to sell it for 40, maybe a little bit more if the right buyer comes along. But if he genuinely expects to make £100 million profit, that is never, ever, ever going to happen. And that's what I can't understand about this, is that it feels a little bit like this is just something that is just bowled in at the end, that wasn't planned, he'd not thought about it. And doesn't that just kind of sum up what's going on at the moment,
100%.
where nothing, there doesn't seem to be a plan to anything. There doesn't seem to be any logic to it. It's just throwing out stuff. I want to talk about that a little bit more. I think probably once we come on to like the FFP and the financial side of things, let's kind of touch on plans and stuff, because there's some really worrying stuff that came out. It's interesting, isn't it, that on the night, we both said that it kind of felt like not a lot was said, and then when you actually step back and look at it, it's the stuff that wasn't said that actually makes the story from last night about just the absolute lack of planning that's going on. But anyway, to sum all that up, I don't think that he's looking to sell at all. It just doesn't feel like this is someone that's sat down, done his sums, and realised that actually the best way forward now is for him to look to move the club on to someone else that can come in and do something different. That's my take on it. Fudge, what do you think? Do you think this is this real, or is this just chaotic nonsense?
I think it is chaotic nonsense. I genuinely don't believe that the club is up for sale at all. I think I've not in any kind of romantic wishful thinking. I just don't think, one, it doesn't balance the books. It doesn't make sense. Why would you pump that amount of money into something to then just walk away because James from Johnsfield thinks it? Not you, James, but I'm just a hypothetical James from Johnfield has got the mug on because you're not playing Jordan Rhodes and you spent 10 million quid on bloody rubbish. Do you know what I mean? It seems insane to me. And all this stuff about his wife's calling him up and saying, why are you in Thailand? Why are you not there? That's utter nonsense. It's all absolute balls. I mean, if you think about it, the reason he came into this world is because he wanted to get into the big money arena, which is Premier League football. And there's some money to be had and there's some money to be earned. He's a businessman. That's what he does. Do you know what I mean? So it's not for any love of the club. It's not for any romantic reason that he's come up with. It's literally just he wants to take us to the Premier League. He gambled and lost, and we're in the aftermath of it. I think what was interesting last night, the most of it, was just how clueless he is about football itself. That's quite worrying, and I'm sure we'll get there in a bit, where he didn't know the difference between a defender and a striker, or whatever I think he said, if that's correct, Vic. But I don't believe that that club's up for sale at all. Really, I think it was him trying to say in his broken English, if I did put the club up for sale, I wouldn't leave it in a turmoil. I think I'm genuinely convinced of that.
Okay, what do you reckon, Vic? What having kind of slept on things and taken it all in, when you take a step back, what do you think? I
think it's like I said. I think it's a combination. I don't think that he intended to go there last night to say that. I think it's probably been in the back of his mind a lot, where he's been berated and he's said, right, do you know what, I'll just sell it. I don't think he intended to end it on that note, but I think he was poorly last night as well. He made that quite clear at the beginning. He did look ill as well, in fairness. He was constantly, he got a hanky up to his face. He wasn't very well. I think, I feel for the guy, as much as I'm not going to sit here now and say I'm a Chansiri fan, because I disagree with a lot of the things that he says and a lot of the way that he talks to people. But I did actually feel for him last night. However, I also got very annoyed. My favourite part, when you said, Fudge, that he doesn't know much about football, he did actually tell us that we get 3 substitutions during a football match. So it was great that he let us know that. He just said, Yeah. And he was like, we were talking about the squad and the rotation of the squad, and he was like, I don't know if you know this, but you get 3 substitutions. And I was like, well, bugger me. Where have I been going wrong all these years? 3 substitutions. But yeah, I think he wanted to do the romantic thing. He wanted to come in, buy a football club. He wanted to do oh God, I can't even remember his name, but the guy at Leicester, like, bless him. I think he wanted that. He wanted to do that with Sheffield Wednesday. I think he saw it happen and he thought, I could do that. I'm a Thai billionaire. I could, and it didn't go that way for him. And, he didn't find the Jamie Vardy. He didn't, and I feel for him in that way. And it's a lot of money to gamble. If it's right, what you said, James, with your sums, it's £100 million. You can't go into football without willing to risk millions and millions of pounds. We know that. And nobody really makes a lot of money out of football in comparison to what they put in. So yeah, you can look at Mandarich and say, oh, he made 15 million profit on us or whatever. But actually, when you look at the ratio of what you put in, you're never going to make, it's never going to be that. It's got to be a labour of love, really. So I think it was a knee-jerk reaction at the end of the night. But like I said, I think he's a man of his word. And I think he'll be shocked when he doesn't get that offer of 280 million, I think.
It was interesting you said in amongst that, Vic, that you kind of felt a bit sorry for him. I'm going to be a little bit cynical here because I have the utmost of respect for Mr. Chansiri, right? He's done something that none of us can go buy Sheffield Wednesday because we just don't have that amount of money. He's thrown his own money at a football club, right? He's done a lot of stuff for which we as Sheffield Wednesday fans should all be very thankful, and there's a lot of stuff that's worthy of criticism. But my kind of thoughts on these forum meetings is that there does seem to be kind of a bit of a hidden undercurrent, which is designed to kind of induce sympathy for him. So last time there was a lot of talk about his family not wanting to come to games and stuff like that. Now that got quite a reaction from the fan base, and clearly abusing his family is completely and utterly unacceptable. By even in the any stretch of the imagination should not be happening. But that really played up. That was a big deal during the night, and then this at the end. I noticed that kind of on Twitter, the mood changed very quickly when he said, "That's it, I'm selling." Suddenly, people began being a little bit defensive about him. Oh, I don't, no one really wants him to go. No one wants this, that, and the other. So there's this cynical thing inside me that wonders: was this just something after quite a torrid night when people were going away not particularly satisfied with what was being said? Is this just something to just try and tip the balance back a little bit and just say, well, actually, I'm just going to walk then. You'll just have any old Tom, Dick, or Harry? That is, the cynical thing inside me, and I'm not saying that is the case. I am simply doing this to try and prompt debate, prompt argument, prompt discussion. I don't know. Fudge, you are normally quite good at playing the cynic.
Yep, I'll bite. I think there is definitely an element of it to it. I think there is definitely an element of, hey, don't get on my back. I've got a family. I'm just like you guys. No, you're not. You're a ruthless businessman. That's what you are. You don't get that rich by writing a lot of checks and being nice to people. Do you know what I mean? You don't. You look at these businessmen's wives. These type of people that are in the circles of these top end businessmen. These aren't ones ringing up going, "Hey, what about the kids at home?" They're probably at boarding school and all that sort of stuff. But do you know what I mean? I genuinely, I know you said it to invoke argument, but that was something I've got written down. Like. It was clearly wasn't very well, but apart from that, that's where the sympathy ends for him. And I think that a lot of the answers he gave last night were middle of the road. Nothing really got answered, and by virtue of the fact that he's told a man who is underperforming in his job that his job's safe is absolute beggar's belief to me. I don't understand. Which, when you really dress it down, when you really think about it, you need to keep the club in a sellable position. You need to keep the club in a, perceived from the outside, in a position where everything's fine and everything's on the way up and everything's great. But as we all know, it ain't. So can you sell a football club with no manager? Can you sell a football club with no real saleable assets anymore? Can you sell a club that's got a complete divided fan base? I don't think you can. So I think that the entire move of these fans forums are a contrite, premeditated plan to try and get some people on side in order to add to the saleability of this club. But do I believe that comes to sale? I don't. If that makes sense.
Whoa, Fudge, hang on. Back up. Sorry.
Go on.
You write things down? When did this start?
Yeah, I started writing some stuff for some things.
Have you literally just written...
Hey, they don't let anybody down south.
I've seen...
It's more big cat, red dog ball.
It's a whole new side to Daniel or Fudge that we didn't know existed. He writes things down, ladies and gentlemen.
I'll make notes.
All right, let's move on then from the sale or otherwise of the club. Let's talk about the financial side of things. As expected, FFP/PNS was one of the other big subjects that came up and got discussed a bit. Vic, do you want to just give us kind of the lowdown on what was said, or in a lot of cases what wasn't said?
To be honest, there's a reason I don't listen to your other podcast, James. I don't get any of it. I don't understand it. I can't add up. I'm a marketing manager who relies on a spreadsheet to do my sums. I can't do any of that. He basically said, "Okay, break it last year. We will break it this year. Selling players won't help." And yeah, that's pretty much it. He was. I kind of got his point, and I know, Fudge. I have been brainwashed, and I hate myself for it as well. Like, I completely get where you're coming from, and I 100% get it. And yeah, I don't particularly like. I respect him. I do respect him, but I don't particularly like the man sometimes. But I find myself empathizing, maybe more than sympathizing. But he did say last night, in any other business that he runs, I mean, where these businesses are, I don't know, because I ain't seen a taxi or an energy drink yet. But he said you are encouraged to put in money and to invest, except into football, where you're discouraged from putting in money. And it kind of made sense, really. Like, it's true. It's like, well, how, any other company in the world, if someone's willing to put in hundreds and hundreds of millions of pounds, you go, yeah, brilliant. But in football, you're not allowed to. And I understand why, but that was his main gripe, I think, with the whole thing, was that he's not allowed to spend money. He wants to spend money. Katrine didn't really address the financial fair play thing, because we'll go into what she said later, but it didn't really seem to be her bag. Mr. Chansiri said nobody knows more about financial fair play than him. He did give a shout out to the so-called experts on social media and the radio. So I'm guessing that means you, James, saying that they don't know more than him. Only he knows what's going on with financial fair play, and he will sort it. He said that he's not sleeping because of it.
Oh, but can I just interject there?
No, it's fine.
Sorry, Vic. My apologies. There was a cracking tweet after the forum last night, and it said, "Big shout out to all the radio mathematicians and the amateur podcasters who came up with the sums about FFP. Congratulations, you were all spot on." Which I thought, oh, that's nice, isn't it? There you are, James. There's number one with a bullet for you. There's some gallows humour. There you are. Well done for being able to mark how dreadful we are at the bank.
I'd much rather of us being horrendously wrong and actually the situation be nowhere near as bad as we predicted it was going to be. Look, in terms of the nitty-gritty of FFP, it's probably no surprise that we have got an Owls About Stats episode that's going to be coming this side of Christmas. We're working on that this weekend. So in terms of the actual... The numbers and getting really under the surface of it, it's probably not worth us getting too far into that. But look, let me tell you my worries from the stuff that I saw from last night. The situation that we're in, was it 2 weeks ago, Fudge, when we did a lunchtime podcast ourselves? It was just the two of us, and we talked about the need for right now Sheffield Wednesday to be thinking about a 3 to 5 year plan. And I said that the reason that Jos probably hasn't been sacked yet is because Mr. Chansiri is looking for the right person that matches that 3 to 5 year plan. And unfortunately, I was completely wrong. We don't have one. We don't have a 3 to 5 year plan. we don't even appear to have a plan for January, which is less than 2 weeks away. Chansiri said on various points, I don't know what's going to happen in January. He also said, I'm not thinking about next season. We've got to sort out this season first. So all the things that I thought, well, it's quite promising that we're doing this and we're doing that, doing the other. Chuck that all in the bin. Absolute. I was talking bollocks 2 weeks ago. We do not have a plan. Any football club in any situation, but particularly us in our situation, that isn't thinking further ahead than the current season, this is an absolutely critical error if it's true. You cannot operate a football club on a plan which stretches barely, a month ahead. We don't have a plan for January. It's 2 weeks away. If we're not thinking about further ahead than this season, we need to have a complete recruitment plan sorted for the next 3 years minimum. We need to be identifying the clubs that are good at developing young players who we can try and strike up, some kind of partnership with to be bringing those players in. This is just it's the absolute worst nightmare for a football club. And of all the things that were said last night, this is the thing that, having slept on it and reflected on it, I am. It's beyond concerning. This is absolute crisis stuff. This, if we genuinely haven't got a plan for January, haven't got a plan before beyond the end of this season, this is nightmare stuff for our football club. We are in deep trouble. That's my take on it.
Do you believe that to be true? Do you believe it to be true that there isn't a plan? There must be a long-term plan. There has to be.
Why? What possible logic is there for you to have a fans forum and not say yes, there is a plan beyond the end of this season, rather than saying no, we're not thinking beyond the end of this season? How could that possibly achieve anything other than just scaring the shit out of everyone?
No, because bear in mind, we are shit-kicker Northerners. Do you know what I mean? And I think he wants to try and make it sound familial. You know, to make it sound like, hey, we're all in this together, guys. It's all right. And also, if I do have a plan, one, I'm not going to tell you, because what if you don't like it and I'm going to be here for another 3 hours? Do you know what I mean? It's just easy for him to say, don't worry about it, I'll sort it. It's like Zach Dingle going, Leash, me and O'Kane, we'll go to Woolley, we'll have a pint and we'll sort it. Do you know what I mean? It's just
that's
like
fine,
that.
Fudge, that's fine. But then say, I have got a plan. I've got a plan for the next few seasons. I'm not going to announce it publicly, but I've got a plan. Why say, no, I haven't got a plan? I don't. It's a bit like me coming around to your house, and I could tell you that when I came to your house, I didn't crash into your car when I parked. Or what I could do is say, I did crash into your car, because that's a thing to do, isn't it? Why would you? Why? There's just no logic. There's no reason why I would tell you that it was a crap analogy. As I was saying it, I was thinking, this is not going to work the way that I want it to. But it's just a daft thing to do. There's absolutely no sense at all in telling people, no, I don't have a plan, if you do have a plan. Even if you don't have a plan, there's no sense in telling people that you don't have a plan, because it's basically like saying, I haven't got a fucking clue what's going on. That's actually what's being said. I just don't know what's going on. If the guy at the top is saying to a forum full of people where he's had weeks to prepare for that meeting, and he's turning up and saying, I'm not thinking beyond the end of this season, that is like, I'm done. I don't know. I can't. I just don't know what else to say about it.
I do think some of that was lost in translation a bit, and I think it is a bit like Fudge said. If he'd have gone into it, it would have gone on forever. I think his point was that he's not thinking about 5 years ahead right now. He's trying to sort the financial fair play shitstorm that's going to hit us at the end of the season. His plan for January was that we can't bring anyone in. He said that. He was like, we just can't do it. My hands are tied. But he's going to look at ways to do it. At the moment, his sole focus is financial fair play, the fact that Catherine isn't involved in that worries me slightly, a lot, because it doesn't sound like she is, and she seemed very knowledgeable about the whole thing when we spoke to her before, and very keen to discuss it. I think his plan for now is he lives in the here and now, and we've said this before, and I don't want to belittle or anything about him. He's the guy that rescued my football club at the end of the day, but also may well shaft my football club. But he He is a businessman, yes, but the main business that we know that he runs is a family business that has a board of directors that run it day to day. Yes? Is that right? I assume he doesn't package all the tuna in the world.
No, I think he's too much of a control freak to let big decisions such as this big contract with John West or spending 10 million quid on Jordan Rhodes. He's too much of a control freak to leave those decisions to somebody else.
Yeah, but he has. What I mean is, if here he's saying that he has, a couple of advisors, and there was someone whose name was mentioned after I left last night. I'm sure James will know about that. I don't know who it is. But he, as far as I'm aware, that multi-billion-pound turnover company will not just be him signing the checks like it is at Sheffield Wednesday. And I think that's kind of what's thrown him. And now, like you said, he is a control freak and he's trying to fix the mess that he is in. And his plan now is to sort that. I'm sure Katrine has a plan for 5 years, and she seemed to last night when she was talking about stuff. But his plan for now is to sort out financial fair play. That's all he would say, really. I don't think it was a case of him saying, no, I don't have a plan, it'd be fine. It was mainly, no, I'm shitting myself about financial fair play.
I hope you're right. I really do. And I get what you're saying about, he's saying, I'm not thinking about 5 years' time. I'm thinking about the here and now and sorting out the shitstorm that is financial fair play. Right. That's not good enough to me. That's not good enough. And this is not me bigging ourselves up or blowing smoke up our arses, right? But a year ago, 3 guys got together and did a podcast that said in 12 months, we're going to be in shit unless we do one of these things. And they were, we've got to sell so-and-so, we've got to sell so-and-so and so-and-so while they've still got a decent amount on their contract left and they're still at a certain age, and that will raise the money to do it. So we should have sorted this 12 months ago. This is not me saying I can run the football club. I can't. This is not me saying that we've got all the answers, because we haven't. But the warning signs were there. If fans could see the warning signs 12 months ago, then the owner of the football club should have seen the warning signs 12 months ago. He should have made the plans there that would have got us through this season, so that now, as we are 2 weeks away from January, which is the last opportunity we've got to sell players, to balance the books in time for the next time we've got to put the accounts in for FFP. 2 weeks before, we're scrambling around trying to come up with a plan. Are we going to be selling players? I don't know. That's what he said last night. Are we going to sell players? I don't know. He doesn't know if we're going to sell players. This should have been sorted 12 months ago. It's not good enough. That is not a good enough way of running a football club in my eyes. Now, let me emphasize that point. This is not me saying that I think I could do a better job because I can't. But this is something that should have been thought about. And right now, he should be thinking about 3 years' time and 5 years' time. Last night should have been about the management of our football club, the hierarchy of our football club coming along and revealing to us what our 5-year vision is of how, we've got to get through the next 2 years and this is how we're going to do it. And then when we're able to reinvest some money, when we've come out of our 3-year FFP cycle, this is what we're going to do. This is the club that we're going to be. And what we got was just, we just need to get through the next month. We don't really know what's going to happen, and then get through to the end of the season. We don't really know what's going to happen. And then after that, we'll figure it out. It'll be fine. Oh, actually, tell you what, I'll sell up instead. That's the solution. It's not good enough. It is not good enough. It's just chaos. It's just nonsense. And I genuinely now, having kind of sat on the fence a little bit with all this, I don't think that we've got any kind of plan. I don't think that anyone there really knows what's going on. I've got no doubt that someone like Katrine is trying and wants to have a plan put together, but it doesn't seem that there's a conducive team that are working in the same direction. How many times did she have to stop him saying things last night because it was going to do some damage? That was mentioned on Twitter a few times about her interrupting him, whispering in his ear, don't talk about that, don't mention that. We've touched on the player that was mentioned for declaring himself fit and then actually not being fit, and now will never play for the club again. Well, that name was revealed at the forum, and then after 15 minutes said, please don't mention the name outside of this walls. It's all over Twitter because 15 minutes down the line, of course, it's been talked about. It doesn't take a genius to go on Twitter and find that. It's not good enough, is it? It's just an absolute mess. And please tell me if I'm being harsh or if I'm being wrong. But when you take a step back and look at it, forget the individual little statements and stuff. The overall conclusion of last night is just that we are a state and we do not know where we're going and we don't know how we're going to solve these problems. We're just being told, yeah, we'll solve it. Nah, not good enough.
It's normally
we're
me
on our way,
that's
but we
always
don't know
on
where.
Yeah,
it's interesting that you pointed out about Katrine interrupting him a few times. I think that for me, it was, I think she's obviously got he's got a lot of respect for her because he did listen to her. And she gets so much stick, and she got stick from people in the crowd last night for laughing. Actually, if you could watch it back, as she was looking around the crowd, she was listening to individual comments as well. So like when he'd say something and someone would mark back with a little quip about, like someone said, "Oh, how long are you giving Joss?" And he said, "Oh, I don't know, we'll see." And someone shouted out, ring fucking D taxis. And then someone else shouted out, "He's on his way." She giggled. She's gonna giggle because she was listening. And I think that's really important. And there are a few videos showing that actually it didn't look like Mr. Chansiri was listening at some points. Maybe he was translating it in his head or whatever, but she was genuinely listening, and she did stop him at certain points. And that is the figurehead that should be running running the day-to-day side of this club. I think she's incredible, and she will do good things for us if she sticks around here. But having seen the look on her face last night when she had to keep interrupting, I don't think I could do what she's doing. I really couldn't. I don't think I could have sat there last night.
With Katrine, what would be the word? Filtering responses from Chansiri and things like that. Surely that negates the entire point of doing a fans forum. I don't want some, the ones we've had in the past. Now, as you said, James, a year ago, the last time we had one of these fans forums, he sat there and said, "We are in trouble next season." He said, "If we don't get promoted, we are in trouble." It was the one just before the Huddersfield playoffs. It might have been two forums ago. He said, "If we don't get promoted, we're in trouble. We are up shit creek," and that's what he said, and that was candid, and I loved it. Do you know what I mean? That was some, but as James says, we did absolutely sod all about it. But we knew we were going to go there, and it helped us understand the plight of the football club. Now, last night we've got these filtered responses, we've got these very middle of the road responses when it came to Yoss and the players and the rest of it. Now, I don't want that. What's the point? What is the actual point of doing these entire forums if we're not going to get answers that we want? I mean, does anybody really know why Sam Hutchinson and Kieran Westwood aren't playing, apart from it's the manager's decision? Do you know what I mean? We don't
She, in fairness, the responses that she filtered were for professionalism. She didn't filter a lot. She face palmed a lot. She, you could see her literally biting her knuckles. But she filtered on obviously we've mentioned about the player who apparently, to quote, we've talked about it now, so I'll bring it up, but to quote Chansiri, he came on social media like Rocky, saying he was fit and ready. He did a little Rocky dance, as he said it, and then told the physio that he wasn't fit. It wasn't that he was declared unfit. He apparently then said to the physio, "No, I'm not playing, I'm not fit." Mr. Chansiri said that was completely disrespectful, no respect to the club. He damaged the club by that point because it obviously put light on him and why he wasn't playing and fans asking questions. Chansiri said that therefore he would name him because he had damaged the club. Katrine didn't say anything at that point, but she looked horrified that he had mentioned this player's name. Obviously, she has to deal with the player ringing her up today saying, "What the fuck?" She did stop him. The main point that she stopped him on was Jordan Rhodes. So someone asked about the dressing room situation that we talked about before, where Rhodes had mentioned in an interview that he was happier at Norwich because there was no bullying or groups in the dressing room. He mentioned a few other clubs that he'd been at that there hadn't been. He didn't mention Sheffield Wednesday. Someone asked Mr. Chansiri last night. He hadn't seen that interview. He was furious that Jordan Rhodes had accused us of being a bully in football club. Katrine stopped him and pointed out that he hadn't named Sheffield Wednesday, and therefore he didn't go any further with that. And I think that was actually really professional. And actually, whilst I appreciate that, yeah, we should be getting clear answers from these forums. That's what they're there for, etc., etc. There's also a level of professionalism that needs to come with that, and it doesn't matter whether you run a business full of 10 people or a business like a football club. You've got to still keep some decorum and some professionalism. And a lot of the time as well, she was explaining.
I completely agree.
she was explaining what the questions were to him. So when he looked confused, she was leaning in his ear and kind of explaining what they were. And then you saw a realization on his face and he went to answer the question. It wasn't so much that she was filtering him. She was just trying to keep it to a level of professionalism that it should be from a business. You know, it was almost like an open board meeting, and no other business would have someone say, oh, well, you know, that bar manager, Dan Fudge, well, he said he was ill and then he wasn't ill and then bloody hell, what a bastard. You wouldn't get that in any other company. So what she did actually was try to bring it back to a level that it should have been. It should never be about naming and shaming. It shouldn't be about getting all the inside secrets. It's not about that. You know, what happens behind those club doors is it's involved with the people who work and have money in the football club. We are fans, we are customers, and if you want the right to complain, then you are a customer. Therefore, you know, if you want to complain you can't buy a shirt, that's because you're a customer who wants to buy a shirt. So we don't deserve to know everything just by going and sitting in the 1867 lounge for a few hours. So she was filtering what needed to be filtered.
Why can't these level of professionalism, these curt responses, why can't they just be put in a press release, put in a statement on the website? Do you know what I mean? An FAQ,
because
a little
if you did
brochure
that,
that you can send out.
Well, you have to do them by EFL rules. By the way, you have to have a certain number of fans forum per season under EFL rules. It's actually part of the rules of owning a football club now that you have to have fan meetings, fan engagement meetings. I think it's 3 over the course of a year. I think. Vic, I listened. Everything you said there was really interesting, but there was nothing there that pulls me away from this situation. There was, but there was nothing there that makes that veers me away from the opinion that last night was anything other than just chaos, which is just what the football club is at the moment.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that, you know, Mr. Chansiri talks for 15 minutes about something and then she kind of says, oh, actually, we shouldn't have said that bit or whatever. It's like those two should have discussed all that beforehand. They should have said, right, what we're going to say about this. It's pretty obvious you're going to get asked about these things. Yeah. What are we going to say about it? What's our public stance on it? Why is this stuff not being thought about in advance? You know, it's just chaos. None of it makes any sense. And it's just, you know, after... When you're at the top end of the league, you forgive it, don't you? Because it's just like, oh, it doesn't matter, it's working. Doesn't matter if the chairman and, you know, then it was Joe Palmer who was the chief operating officer. Doesn't matter if they're not on the same page on stuff. Don't matter. Now, when actually everything's going a bit shit, then that's the stuff that really goes under the spotlight. And there was nothing in the way that the two of them seem to interact together last night that makes me think, oh, actually, that's a really good working relationship. It sounds like she's just having to rein him in every now and then. It's just, it's I don't know. It's not good enough. We've talked for 46 minutes pretty much already, and we've only really kind of covered 2 main topics, although we've covered some of the subtopics. So look, guys, if you agree with this, I don't think we particularly need to talk any further about Jos than we have done already, not just tonight, but over the last few podcasts. It's clear as things stand right now, he's not going anywhere. And that was kind of, you know, made pretty clear last night. Fudge, as you mentioned, the statement that was made about the players that aren't playing was really because of the coach, and it's his decision. We didn't get much more of an insight in it other than that. Vic, is there anything else from last night that you kind of, you know, want to get across and want to mention?
Yeah, well, just before I do, I've been going to Hillsborough since 1989, so just to let you know. It was... So I mean, I've talked about Katrine. I do have a major girl crush on her, but because she eludes professionalism. So she was, at one point, obviously Mr. Chansiri went out for a cigarette and a guy stood up, and I've reached out for this guy on Twitter today because I think he would be great to come on the podcast at some point. He's a young lad, really, really well spoken. And he asked the rest of the panel, who by this point hadn't said anything about what their role was in the club and if they had an update. So that was really interesting. So it went from Alistair, who's the ticket office manager. He was talking about the fact that he's doing stuff with tickets. They've done a few 6-game packages and stuff like that. He's kind of just plodding along and doing his job and doing it as well as he can. It then went to Stan, who's a security guy. He absolutely adores this football club. He said so last night. He is really passionate about it. He said the fans give him major headaches every single game, but he wouldn't swap it for the world. His job, again, is just tootling along, battling with the safety advisory group and doing his usual role. I'm not trying to belittle his role, by the way, because my God, will that be a difficult job? But he just said, look, my day-to-day job is this. This is what I do. It then went to Katrine, who, it was strange, really, because as a CEO, she seems to have, from what we could gather last night, more of a commercial director role. So she seems to have stepped into that light. Now, I apologise if there is a commercial director at the club. I don't think there is, because I think Toddy said last night that he works directly with Katrine on stuff. So she was instrumental in launching the fan parks outside the ground. She said that they are currently running at a loss, but she is keen to give something back. Whilst the football's not good, she can't do anything about the football. She is wanting to do more for the fan engagement side of things. So she said that her main role was fan engagement and increasing revenue. So she's launched the fan parks. She has put the shop in Meadowhall. She said that will be long term if it's feasible, if it's affordable. As it stands, it sounds like it's on a bit of a week by week basis. So so that's happening at the moment. And then she also mentioned a few of the other bits that, she's working on. So stuff in the club shop. She's working with the club shop to increase stuff there. She's doing, like I said, a lot more with fan engagement. Then it went on to Trevor Braithwaite, who's director of comms. Wow, what a job that must be at the moment. He interestingly was talking about iFollow and said that our FLI, Football League Interactive platform, and iFollow are actually the second highest grossing platform in the Football League of those who use it. Obviously, some major clubs bought out of the deal, but out of the whole Football League, we make the most money out of it. And we have now obviously got Rob O'Neill and John Pearson involved, and that is a partnership with Radio Sheffield as well, he said. And the partnership with Radio Sheffield is all back on the straight and narrow, as is with the Star, which is good. That was pretty much it. Other than that, it was just, no, Joss isn't getting sacked, stop asking about it. And that's pretty much a roundup of the rest of the evening, to be honest.
Good stuff. Thank you very much, Vic. So this is the Wednesday week, sponsored by the Riverside Cafe. Do you know what? We've talked a lot there about the only stuff that really seems to matter right now in Sheffield Wednesday world. So I'm going to just kind of do a bit of like a quick summary of the other Sheffield Wednesday news here. I'm going to try and do it in kind of like, let's say a minute or a minute and a half flat, and then we can kind of wrap things up. So I don't think we need to talk a great deal, to be honest, about the Swansea game, because it was fairly typical of Sheffield Wednesday of late, where we have a bit of positivity, we take the lead, and then everything comes crashing down. Obviously, there was the Yoss interview afterwards as well. There's been a lot that's been kind of said about that, and it'll be kind of interesting to see how things play out with him over the next couple of games, because those questions aren't going to go away. So defeat at Swansea. Next up for Wednesday, of course, is Preston this Saturday. Then we go into the very busy Christmas period. We are at Middlesbrough on Boxing Day. Fudgy, you're in Sheffield for a little bit. So next week's Wednesday week will actually be us three together in the same actual room, actually looking at each other's faces. That's going to be lovely. I can't wait for that.
Apologies in advance for my face.
All the stuff that's going on. So yesterday, as well as being the fans forum, was also the blue and white Christmas that Wednesday do every year now, which is brilliant, where they go around a lot of the local charities, to the Children's Hospital, to some really good causes. It was covered really thoroughly on the club's Twitter feed, and has been covered on the website since then as well. It's well worth having a look and just seeing what they did. Similarly as well, earlier in the week, a young lad, Owen, who has been in hospital for kind of a long-term hospital thing. He was at the club's training session on, I think it was either Monday or Tuesday. That was really, really good. Some really nice stuff that came out of that. So in a week where things haven't been great, it was nice to have a little bit of kind of positive stuff. Fudge, I'm going to bring in you here because, again, this is actually quite upbeat. So the EFL Goal of the Year competition is up and running, and we've got 3 goals in the final for that.
Yes, we've got, I think it's Adam Reach having a competition on his own with the rest of the league. I think he's probably trying to engineer himself a move or keep his price up. So, that's just me being cynical. But yeah, Adam Reach against Leeds, which is the long-range slap. Then there was Adam Reach against West Brom, which was the long-range slap. Now, none of these are hit and hope goals either. These are decent goals. But I tell you what, the other ones that are in there are Conor Herhane. There's also where's the other lad from Villa? John McGinn. He's in there as well. But Little Barry for me has got the goal for me. I love this goal. It's the one against Millwall, the one where it's the side volley into what you youth today call the top bins. If you want to get involved in that, it's on Sky Sports now. If you just Google EFL Goal of the Year, get involved, and we should all pick one.
We are way behind as well.
Are we? Are we behind John McGinn?
Yeah, we are. It's 41% have voted for Neves, Wolves Derby, 41% John McGinn, 8% Adam Reach so far for the Leeds goal, 2% for West Brom, 1% Barry Banham.
So there you are.
Tell you what, that Neves goal was good though, wasn't it?
It was good.
It was.
Adam Reach, we'll pick the Adam Reach one and we'll all go for that one. Because we've got 3 goals in there, we'd be winning anyway. If you added all 3
Wednesday
together,
nights assemble.
Yeah.
Tell you what, because it didn't actually win the goal of the month, did it? Because the John McGinn one beat the Adam Reach one. So it's only fair that he wins goal of the year. It's fair. Let's share out the love. Come on, Villa fans, stop being so selfish. Right, so that's on the go at the moment. Quick youth watch: the under-23s beat Hull 2-1. Interestingly, Sam Hutchinson was in the starting 11 for that game. And congrats to Isaac Rice, who I think actually made a substitute. He didn't actually make an appearance, but was named as one of the substitutes earlier in the season. He has signed his first professional contract this week, so well done to him. So that is the 1.5 minute news summary that took 4 minutes. That was pretty good. I want to end on a slightly more light-hearted note. Because, last week when we were recording the podcast, we had a few technical issues caused by the fact that Eddie lives, in the sky somewhere or something. So we had a few minor technical problems that meant the back end of the podcast didn't go quite according to plan. Anyone that's listened to it knows that it sounds like we're all talking over each other, which we actually do, but not quite as bad as it came across on the back end of last week's podcast. It also meant I couldn't hear anything that Eddie was saying. So there was this discussion about Marco Matthias opening up his tarts.
Yes.
That was a really bad choice. Sorry. So opening up his tart business. It's not got any better, has it? So Marco Matthias and his pastry business, let's call it that. And you kind of threw about some ideas for other things that Wednesday players could do. And I couldn't hear you, and I got some prepared. So I want to do them now. I want to do them this week. So I've got Lucas Jauda's Chowder. We've got
Brilliant.
Morgan Foxy Bingo.
Yes.
Morgan Foxy Bingo.
Sponsor Jeremy
Morgan
Kyle.
Foxy Bingo, yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Kieran Westwood's Best Wood,
Yeah.
which is just he sells really good wooden furniture.
Nice.
This is one for anyone that's lived in Sheffield for a certain length of time will remember this. Stephen Fletcher's van. So the Fletcher's van, anyone remember that? He used to come around with the bread and the cakes and stuff like that. So Stephen Fletcher, when he retires, just drive around selling bread. I've got Josh Honor Mamas and Papas, which sells children's clothing. It gets worse.
Give it away.
Matt's Penny Tube.
Oh dear.
Which is just a sweet shop. And finally, I'm quite proud of this one, Cameron Dawson's Cab to Your Dawson, where he offers people a lift home.
Can you hear that noise, listeners? Can you hear that noise? That's the bottom of the barrel being scraped there.
Cameron Dawson's Cab to Your Dawson is buying out D-taxis, I've heard. We'll have to see. So, that is going to bring us to a light-hearted end to what's not been a particularly light-hearted Wednesday week. But thank you for bearing with us. As I said, there will be an edition of Owls About Stat, which will touch on some of the more technical stuff that came out of the forum last night. Vic, firstly, thank you for going along and repping the weakers at the forum. My apologies for being a no-show. I know obviously you've done quite a lot of tweeting about it. If people want to catch up with kind of the story of last night and see some of the other stuff that was said, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Victoria1867, which is ironically the year I started going.
Fudge, your Twitter's got absolutely nothing of interest whatsoever. So if people want to find that, where would they go?
I wouldn't bother. I just won't bother. You can if you want.
Yeah.
It's at Dan Fudge. It's got nothing going on there at the minute, has it? I've not done a knob gag in a while either.
Yeah, sort it out, Fudge. You can get me on Twitter at James Marriott. We will be back next week with our actual kind of live sat round the same table somewhere, possibly in my kitchen, not sure yet. So that will be back next week. But in the meantime, have an amazing Christmas. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Keep up to date with the Wednesday Week on Twitter at TWWcast or on our website, thewednesdayweek.co.uk.